Welcome to tonight's meeting, and thank you for coming. My name is Commissioner Chris Little. I'm serving as the chair for tonight's meeting at the Sacramento Local Agency Formation Commission, also known as LAFCo. The commissioners are locally elected officials who were designated by their respective home agencies to serve on LAFCo. Our role is to oversee boundary changes of cities and special districts, the formation of new agencies, including the incorporation of new cities and districts, and the consolidation or reorganization of special districts and/or cities. The broad goals of the Commission's directive are to ensure the orderly formation of local government agencies to preserve agricultural and open space lands and to discourage urban sprawl. Commissions must, by law, create municipal service reviews and update spheres of influence for each independent local governmental jurisdiction within their countywide jurisdiction. Our meetings are always open to the public, and regularly scheduled meetings are shown live on Metro Cable 14, webcast live on the Metro Cable TV website, and posted on the county's website. Comments are welcome. Please complete a speaker slip and return it to the county clerk. Time will be limited to 2 minutes per person to keep the meeting timely. We ask that you address your comments or questions to the Commission. Thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Let the record reflect that I was notified by Commissioners Kaplan, Pratton, and Jones that they will not be present for tonight's meeting. Now I'll call roll to establish a quorum.
Thank you.
Commissioners Carter?
Here.
Hume?
Here.
Moore? Desmond? Here. Karpinski-Costa?
Present.
Pluckebaum?
Here.
And Chair Little.
Here.
You have a quorum with the members that are present.
Thank you. You've called the roll. All right, let's stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Do we have any announcements?
Yes, I have a Metro statement. This meeting of the Sacramento Local Agency Formation Commission is live and recorded with closed captioning. It is cablecast on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel on the Comcast and DirecTV UVerse cable systems. It is also live streamed at metro14live.saccounty.gov. Today's meeting replays Sunday, May 11th at 9 a.m. on Metro Cable Channel 14. Once posted, the recording of this meeting can be viewed on demand at youtube.com/Metro Cable 14. The Sacramento Local Agency Formation Commission fosters public engagement during the meeting and encourages public participation, civility, and use of courteous language. The board does not condone the use of profanity, vulgar language, gestures, or other inappropriate behavior, including personal attacks or threats directed towards any meeting participant. Each speaker will be given 2 minutes to make a public comment and are limited to making one comment per agenda or off-agenda item. Please be mindful of the public comment procedures to avoid being interrupted or disconnected while making your comment. Please fill out a speaker request form and hand it to the clerk's staff. The chairperson will open public comments for each agenda or off-agenda item and direct the clerk to call the name of each speaker. When the clerk calls your name, please come to the podium and make your comment. If a speaker is unavailable to make a comment prior to the closing of public comments, the speaker waives their request to speak, and the clerk will file the speaker request form in the record. The clerk will manage the timer and allow each speaker 2 minutes to make a comment. You may send written comments by email to boardclerk@saccounty.gov. Your comment will be routed to the board and filed in the record. If you need an accommodation pursuant to the Americans with Disabilities Act or for medical or other reasons, please see clerk staff for assistance or contact the clerk's office at 916-874-5451 or by email at boardclerk@saccounty.gov. Thank you in advance for your courtesy and understanding of the meeting procedures. This concludes your announcement.
Thank you. Do we have, or can you please read the first item?
First item is public comment off agenda, and we do have one person in the queue. Mark Velasquez, I'm sorry.
That's okay. Velasquez. Thank you.
Good. You have 2 minutes.
Hello, commissioners and staff. You might remember me that I'm called either the cemetery guy, the cemetery district guy, or whatever you prefer to call me. That's fine. I was here last August. Time does fly. We were on agenda last August because I was asking for the municipal service review, which is, I think, 17 years overdue now for cemetery districts in this county, to be bumped up in order of priority to get it done. Because currently it's, what I remember from the last meeting was set to be at the end of this year or the beginning of next year, and I wanted it moved up. This commission denied that request after some discussion, but did indicate to staff that a public information gathering session should be had. If you remember, I had brought district managers and trustees from 3 of the 4 cemetery districts in this county to speak last time. We also had some other morticians and so speaking on this matter. The council had directed staff to have that kind of open discussion with the public by last November. It never happened. So I'm here to get this back in front of you. Mostly my ask is this. Is that the chair or the designee check in with the executive director to see if the MSR is actually indeed on track to be started at the end of this year. It's a very simple ask. The ask after that is for the chair, if staff here says no, they're going to be delaying it further, that it be put back on the agenda. So we can now discuss why it's being delayed even further. We know this is 21. The last MSR was done.
Excuse me, please wrap up your comments.
What's that?
Please wrap up your comments. Thank you.
Oh, shoot. I have handouts that I could leave. This is where we're going. It's the Meadowview Memorial Park Visionary Plan. I hope you guys can look at it to see where we're going so we can get there. I'm just going to leave these here for public or for the members.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, I do not see any other public speakers for off-agenda item.
Excuse me. We had a question from a commissioner.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I know we can't get in back and forth about off-agenda public comment, but I do remember when this came before us last year, we did have a discussion. There seemed to be broad support about maybe agendizing a larger, maybe a workshop about the status of the cemetery districts. And so I'd like to kind of renew that request that we get that on the agenda this year, if possible. I know we've been very busy. We've had a lot on our agenda at this commission in the interim, but maybe we can do that before, sometime in the next few months.
Mr. Chair, let the record reflect that Commissioner Moore has arrived at 5:46.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Next item, please.
Item 2 is approved consent calendar items 2 through 5.
Move approval.
Second.
I'm sorry, the first one was
Karpinski Costa.
Okay, thank you. And the second? Desmond. Thank you. All right. You may vote.
This is voting on the consent calendar.
Your motion passes unanimously with all the members present.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Can you please read the next item?
Item 6 is continued public hearing to consider and certify the environmental impact report and approve the respective amendments to the spheres of influence for the City of Sacramento and Sacramento Area Sewer District, LAFCo project number
Excuse me.
2023.
I'm gonna move item 7 up to ahead of item 6.
Okay.
If you don't
no
mind.
problem.
No one minds. I think that will, the budget discussion will be briefer than.
Okay. Item 7 is public hearing to consider and approve the final budget for fiscal year 2025-26.
And for those following along, it starts on page 633 of our agenda.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, if you recall, LAFCo approves the budget on a two-step process. You considered the proposed budget at the April meeting. This is the final step, which is the approval of the final budget. No changes have been made since the approved proposed budget. The employee expenses is broken out in the staff report and is $684,000. That is to reflect essentially a new classification for me, as well as a step increase for one of the analysts, and then a COLA for the two analysts as well. Please remember that the employee expense is listed here as a separate category, but then it moves to the other professional services, since it goes to compensate the county for staffing costs, since the commission contracts with the county for those. But otherwise, the operating expenses will be going up by about $10,000, and then you also have an operating contingency on top of that. We will be relying on applicant fees and carryover, as well as a 5% increase on agency contributions for next year. There are no surprises here. It's pretty much the same. I think at a subsequent meeting, I'm going to request if we can form either empower the current personnel ad hoc committee or create a new budget ad hoc committee to kind of discuss the LAFCo staffing in the next few years, given the increase in workload. But that's not for discussion at the moment. This is just to approve the fiscal year budget for 25-26.
We have a motion to approve?
So moved.
Do we do that first? Okay. All right. Do we have any public comment?
We do not have any public comment for item 7.
Okay.
Second.
All right.
Correct.
Okay. Now let's go to item 6.
Okay. Item 6 is public hearing to consider and certify the environmental impact report and approve the respective amendments to the spheres of influence for the City of Sacramento and Sacramento Area Sewer District LAFCo project number 2023-03.
Mr. Chair, before we begin, I believe that there are 3 announcements that have to be made. One from Commissioner Pokemon, another one from Commissioner Krasinski-Costa, and the third from Commissioner Moore.
Thank you. I've reviewed my campaign contributions, and on the advice of council, I am able to participate in tonight's hearing. I've reviewed all the testimony from our last hearing and prepared to vote.
For me, I am the alternate to the GALT representative, but I was here last month for the entire thing. I sat in the audience, so I feel well-versed in the issue.
Sorry, not used to doing this. I'm the alternate for Gay Jones and Lindsay Liebig, and I have watched the entire tape from last month. I have also spoken with Gay Jones at length. I've spoken with Heather Fargo, and I've spoken with Executive Director Enriquez. So I feel like I've read all the material. I believe I'm up to date and I understand the issues.
Thank you very much. If the presentation can be pulled up, please. Thank you. This item, I'm going to repeat some of the information from last month, but I'm not going to go into exactly the same. Just for purposes of background for members of the audience and anyone else, essentially LAFCo is a regulatory body that regulates the boundaries of most local agencies in the state of California. LAFCo was formed in 1963 as a regional growth management agency for each county. It's got 4 missions. They're up on the screen, but I'll read them as well. Encourage orderly urban growth and development to prevent urban sprawl, leapfrog development, and scattered urbanization. Encourage local formation and determination of boundaries to coordinate property development standards and to encourage timely urbanization. Ensure that affected populations receive adequate and efficient government services and to guide development away from open space and prime agricultural land uses. Please note that these are the 4 missions of LAFCo as designated by the state legislature. However, the state legislature did not rank these. These are all have equal value and equal weight, and the government code under 56425, which is what the sphere of influence section is under the government code, provides the factors that the commission have to weigh as part of your deliberations. So LAFCOs have 2 main regulatory functions, both discretionary decisions. One is to set the sphere of influence for each agency, which is defined as the probable ultimate physical boundaries and service area of a local government agency, and to alter the service boundaries of local agencies consistent with number 1. LAFCO has no jurisdiction on land use. The policy area is strictly reserved for cities and counties. All LAFCO actions for changes in boundaries must be consistent with an agency's sphere of influence. And the item before you today is the setting of the sphere of influence for the city of Sacramento and the Sacramento area sewer district, also known as Sac Sewer. These are the factors that you are weighing as part of the as part of this agenda item, and that is the sphere of influence. And as I indicated at the last month, these 5 factors essentially boil down to: can an agency reasonably extend services to new areas? And number 2, can it do that extension without harming existing customers? And on the first factor as to whether or not it can extend services, that also finances play into a role to ensure that essentially if you were to extend services, can it be done so in a way that does not negatively impact the finances of a local government? And again, the actions for an SOI have to be consistent with your 4 missions. Clearly, as indicated last month, the 4 missions can conflict with each other depending on the circumstances. So you have to weigh each factor and each action under its own merits and based on its own facts. The project description before you is essentially the amendment of the sphere of influence for the city of Sacramento and Sac Sewer on a 474.4 acre project site that currently consists of undeveloped agricultural land. The project site is currently located in Sacramento County, but it's outside of the county's urban services boundary and outside of the urban policy area. The site is bound in the north by I-5, to the east by the city of Sacramento, to the west by Power Line Road, and south of the project is Paso Verde K-8 school with additional agricultural land that is in Sacramento County. The sphere of influence amendment requests come from are to the city of Sacramento and Sac Sewer, as stated earlier. Here is a map of the area in question. It's bounded in white. You can see the North Lake development to the northeast, also known as Greenbrier. The West Lake community immediately to the east. The K-8 Paso Verde school is just south of the picture here. To the north is the Metro Air Park that's being developed under the county jurisdiction. To the to the northwest is the Sacramento International Airport, and immediately to the east there will be the future site of the recharging stations for semis that the county is currently considering. Here is a map of the proposed development that's contemplated in the environmental impact report. You may recall that last month I said that you're kind of in a weird spot because the law explicitly prohibits you from considering land use in your decisions. However, CEQA and case law have also said that you can't entirely ignore land use. This is the proposed development as it stands. As you can see, it's basically composed of warehouse and retail and hospitality south of the Metro Air Park on-ramp. There is parcel 8, that's the name of the parcel to the north, to the southeast, that is not designated for development and is referred to as a non-participating parcel or non-participating project. But essentially, any uses in that area most likely would be consistent with the proposed Airport South development. Here is a land use map of, sorry, not a land use map. This is just a diagram map of the project site bounded in black. So here is the background on on how we got here. On May 25th, an application was submitted to the SOI amendments by the landowners. This is not unusual. LAFCo actions can be brought up by 3 parties. It can be brought up by registered voters. It can be brought up by landowners, and it can also be brought to you by a public agency. The government code allows all 3. Just because a project is brought to you by one party versus another party does not diminish their ability to do so, and it's not unusual. On July 31st, 2021, the City of Sacramento and LAFCo entered into a memorandum of understanding relating to the coordinated environmental review process for this project. A targeted MSR was created in order to review the extension of services. The municipal service review is essentially a snapshot of how well an agency is currently providing services. You then use that data to extrapolate for a sphere of influence. A targeted MSR was done because essentially the city was going through its process of a general plan amendment at the time, and one of the contemplated actions under the general plan was a citywide MSR to be done. But the timing didn't quite work out, and so the decision was made to create a targeted MSR. So that was for the City of Sacramento and for Sac Sewer, which at the time was composed of 2 separate agencies, Sac Sewer and the then Regional County Sanitation District, or Regional SAN. Those districts were combined into one in the fall of 2023. And so now it's just Sac Sewer. Here is a picture of the current sphere of influence for the City of Sacramento. As you can see, most of the sphere of influence is located to the east and south, southeast and south of the district. They do have one island in the center that's currently surrounded by the city. If I can use the laser, there we go. The site currently in consideration is located right here, section of the dot. Essentially, wanted to answer 2 questions, and it's been brought up at the staff level, and I believe it was brought up at last month's meeting. Does the SOI basically mean that the annexation is foregone conclusion? And the answer is no, because each action is separate. Each action is different. And again, the law and the case law indicates that you have to take each action based on its own merits. So you can't expand an SOI and not necessarily approve an annexation. There's actually 2 relatively recent examples of that. The city of Folsom had an SOI application in the late 90s, early 2000s for south of 50. The annexation actually was not considered until 2015. Elk Grove currently has an expansion south of Camera Road, and there hasn't been any annexations of that area into the city. So you can't take 2 separate actions, although related. They don't necessarily one beget the other. Because LAFCo has 4 different missions, the preservation of ag land is a mission that you must consider, but it doesn't take any more precedence or any more weight than the orderly formation of government or the reasonable extension of services. So each factor has to be considered based on what you have before you. And again, one doesn't beget the other, one doesn't have a greater weight than the other. So for today, your question is whether or not the SOI should be expanded, and your considerations are on the capacity and the capability of Sac Sewer and the City of Sacramento to extend services without compromising services for the existing residents. Here is the map of the SOI for the City of Sacramento as it relates to this request. In that area, the City of Sacramento's SOI is concurrent to its city limits.
The area that's going to be requested to expand is the area highlighted in red and colored in yellow. For Sac Sewer, the shaded area, it's its current service area as well as its SOI, sphere of influence. The request is to extend the SOI for Sac Sewer to the red line and the yellow highlighted parcels. So CEQA, LAFCo and the City of Sacramento cooperated to prepare an environmental impact report pursuant to the agreement described in Section 15.5.1D of the CEQA guidelines. A notice of preparation for the EIR was prepared and released to the public on March 4th with a comment through April 4th. The notice of availability of the draft EIR was released for public comment from May 31st to July 17, 2024. And you yourself held a meeting on June 12th specifically to receive public comments on the draft EIR. The EIR evaluated the potential environmental impacts and associated with the development of the project area, and all impacts are less than significant or can be reduced to less than significant with mitigation, with the exception of aesthetics, agricultural resources, and air quality / greenhouse gases / energy. So at the April meeting, the commission or staff had requested the continuance to basically clarify a few things on the findings of fact. Basically, the findings of facts in the statement of overriding considerations did not adequately differentiate between LAFCo's responsibilities under CEQA and the city's, and so and also stated various legal standards and requirements under CEQA that are not required to be included in the public agency's findings or certifying resolutions. So the May findings of facts and statement of overriding considerations were included in your packet. Those are the ones before you today for consideration. I'll now go into the Natomas Habitat Conservation Plan. The conservation plan is designed to protect endangered species and their habitats within the Natomas Basin. It is a shared effort to various agencies to balance the development of urban areas and the preservation of natural ecosystems. And the mitigation requires that the preservation of an offsite farmland at a ratio of 1 farmland acre converted to urban land uses outside of the MBHCP policy area to 0.5 acre reserved, combined with the biological resources mitigation results in an overall preservation at a 1-to-1 ratio. The EIR discusses that at length, and the mitigation monitoring plan includes that as that mitigation in the plan. So the May findings of fact and statement of overriding considerations have been revised by shortening and simplifying them. It added language clarifying the responsibility of the City of Sacramento versus LAFCo. More clearly states LAFCo's role under its discretionary authority on the certification of the EIR, and it also removes unnecessary legal discussions. So your SOI determination, the information is included in your staff report. The information that was at the April packet has not been changed for this packet at all. Is exactly the same as was being considered in April. And then in addition, so public comments were closed public comments are closed in April. And normally your deliberation would occur at this meeting. But the item was continued on a few things, so the findings of facts and the statement of overriding considerations, because it needed to be clarified, like I stated in the previous meeting. However, staff is recommending that you allow public comments, and it's based on 2 reasons. While the public comment was closed, the Brown Act requires to provide the public an opportunity to comment at each meeting before an action is taken, and the public can be granted an opportunity to comment on the pieces of this item that have changed between April and May, in which, again, is the finding of facts and the statement of overriding considerations. So staff recommendations are listed above. It's also on page 1 of your staff report. Essentially, it's to adopt LAFCo Resolution 2509, which includes the certifying the environmental impact report, including the adoption of the statement of overriding considerations, the mitigation monitoring reporting program, consistent with CEQA. It's to adopt LAFCo Resolution 2025-10, which is approve the requested sphere of influence amendment for the city of Sacramento, and adopt Resolution LAFC 2025-11 to approve the requested sphere of influence amendment to the Sacramento Area Sewer District, and then direct the executive officer to complete the necessary filings and transmittals under the law. That concludes my presentation, and I can answer any questions you may have.
Mr. Hume.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not going to make a big issue of it tonight because a lot of people took time out of their busy schedules to come down here, probably after reviewing the staff report showing that public comment was going to be allowed. But I disagree with the first finding in your staff report that when a public hearing, the public comment period is closed and the hearing is continued for deliberations to a future meeting, you do not have to take comment again on the entirety of the item or even portions that were changed. If there was something that needed to be clarified and that had to be clarified between now and then, or then and now, then that can happen. And so to that point, I just want to be clear, because I had a hard time following it in the staff report. On page 9, you come to the conclusion, page 9, you talk about the clarifications, and then you draw the conclusion, and then you go on page 10 to the SOI project determinations. Is it within those project determinations that's the clarification that happened between the last meeting and this meeting, or is there a separate findings of fact document that I did not see?
Yeah, it's part of the draft environmental impact report. It was attachment E.
It's embedded in the EIR, okay.
Correct, and then that was accessible via the QR code that we included in the staff report. It's also available on the website as a separate document for public review.
Okay.
The items that you referenced on the SOI project determinations, those have not changed.
Those have not changed. And so, given that your recommendation is that the public comment only pertain to the clarifications that happened between the April meeting and this meeting, I don't recall seeing a slide that elucidated those in any specific fashion other than saying it just kind of cleared up responsibilities between LAFCo and the city.
Correct. The changes staff would argue are clerical and non-substantive, but still, it's a new meeting. The public has the right to comment before a decision is made at every meeting, and for those reasons, we figure that we can allow or the public should be allowed to provide comment to you.
Okay. Again, I disagree with that premise, but I won't make a bigger point of it than that.
Commissioner Desmond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and appreciate the comments from Commissioner Hume. I agree with the comments, and as a matter of fact, at the last meeting, we specifically asked this question before we adjourned and before, I believe it was Commissioner Hume made a motion to continue this, because I think otherwise, if we thought otherwise that we were going to have to reopen public comment, we would have just recessed and had council maybe make those changes at that night, because I agree. I mean, so many folks are here again to repeat the same things, and I think the chair is going to have a very difficult time in trying to limit public comment to just what those changes are if there is not a specific document that he can be referencing. So I understand it's staff's recommendation that you allow public comment, but I, for one, don't think that's necessary on this item. I think we could do what we decided to do and what council said we would be able to do at this meeting, which is deliberate and make a final decision on this item.
So I guess it falls to me, huh?
Council may have some thoughts on that.
Understand your positions with respect to whether or not the public comment should be open. I think another factor that wasn't mentioned is that upon review of the CEQA findings that were prepared for the April meeting, there were several changes that needed to be made, and whether or not those are substantive or non-substantive, clerical or not, is open to interpretation and what your view of, to some extent, what your view of the project is and what the law is. And so one of the issues that the Commission is faced with is whether it wishes to open public comment again or run the risk that that becomes an issue that could, be subject to litigation in the future. And by reopening public comment, you take that issue off the table.
Well, as a non-attorney, I will I will just jump right in. I agree with. Unfortunately, I kind of agree with everybody that's spoken, which means I feel like I have to split the baby somehow here. And as much as I would like to keep this specifically to those issues that were addressed and changed, which were essentially non-substantive, they were clerical in nature. I don't think everybody here is aware of those specific, unless you actually have a slide that you can put up that shows.
No, there isn't a slide that specifically shows where the changes were.
Okay.
But like I said, they fall into those three categories that are specified under this slide. We clarified the responsibility of the city versus LAFCo, and the last one, we don't believe that it was specific as to whose responsibility it was to mitigate what, and who's going to be monitoring and reporting that. So we made that more clear, and then we basically stated LAFCO's role more on the items that you have jurisdiction on and your authority is on, because again, the April findings of fact kind of fudged land use and other items and other discussions that were not really pertinent to your discussion. And so essentially we just pared everything down to what your role is as your findings of fact and consideration.
Okay.
May I?
Sure.
I would just add that comparing the two documents, having looked at them back and forth, it does seem to me that the document you have before you tonight is more clear, more transparent with respect to LAFCO's role and responsibilities, and so a more appropriate and defensible document.
Okay. Well, how many people do we have listed as wanting to comment?
Mr. Chair, so far we have 17 in the queue.
Okay. Yes, Commissioner.
I just have a question. So the way I understand this, what that one was? The change was, the way it was in amendment, attachment F, is that the one? That says, all the mitigation is the duty of the city of Sacramento. Is that basically what it says? If you had a slide of clarifying the obligations under CEQA, basically, I read that all the mitigation and all the monitoring and all of that is the job of the city of Sacramento and not LAFCO. Is that the way I read it?
That is one of the changes that were made under the Environmental Quality Act. Certain findings are required to be made by the lead agency, one of which is certain impacts will be mitigated by changes in the project that are described in the mitigation measures.
But when you say we're clarifying the duties and responsibilities,
right,
that's what it was.
I'm getting to that right now.
Shoving it over there, okay.
Yeah, and another one of the findings that's available is the authority to impose those mitigations lies with another agency, and that agency should impose the mitigation. And there was some confusion in the first set of the April findings. So that's, as you pointed out one of the changes that was
I
made.
think it's in attachment F, but you had to really dig through the 665 pages to find it.
Okay, thank you. I am going to propose that we allow 10 people to speak, five opposed, or five and we can do that. And we had robust discussion at the last meeting. So I think I'll leave it up to those to decide which ones they want to put forward to speak. You get 2 minutes each.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to call their names for those in support or those opposed?
Correct.
Okay. We'll go with the first three people. I'll call your names. For those that are opposed, to come up to the lectern to make your comment. The first person is Susan Hare. Yes. Yes.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Susan Haree, immediate past president of ECOS. While you've been told that the law requires you to make each decision independently and that a decision today won't affect subsequent decisions, I think it's naive to think that. In general, we humans think that building one decision upon another is a good thing. It's how we build a life. We choose our friends. We choose a career. And think about the adage of habits create character, create destiny. Things have to make sense in the context of the past and how we see the future. At the site of the proposed Airport South project, if we look back, we see planning for sustainability through the Urban Services Boundary and the Natomas Basin Habitat Conservation Plan, both 30 years old, both representing broad regional planning goals to preserve open space. We're shaken to think that a yes vote by you today could undermine decades of planning. If we look forward, we can't help but think that a yes vote by you today will make it easier to justify breaking again through the USB and the Natomas Basin Habitat for the Upper West Side project and the future Grand Park project. If the Airport South situation were different, and
Ma'am, please wrap up your comments. Thank you.
and the Upper West and the Urban Services Boundary and the Habitat Conservation Plan did not exist, one could reasonably consider a yes vote. But in this case, we do have those two important planning and sustainability actions, and that were done literally to preserve open space. So in this case, please vote no.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The next person in opposition would be Heather Fargo. Please come to the lectern.
Good evening. First of all, there was no red line copy. We asked for one, so we don't know the changes any more than you do. But it does seem interesting to me that that you can ask the city to do mitigation when the city hasn't even weighed in on whether or not they want this project. And there's only one person from the city here, Mr. Pluckybaum, to respond to that. I am interested in knowing your legal opinion as to whether or not, if you certify the EIR tonight, is the City Council of Sacramento relieved of their burden of certifying EIR? Is it done at this point, or will they have to certify it as well? I do want to clarify again that the LAFCo report, the new LAFCo report, continues to falsely claim that the City of Sacramento wants this project. As you know, this project has never been before the City Council, been no public hearing before the City Council, no decision. And we realize this has put a burden on you. We also disagree with staff that if you are approving this tonight, you're only approving the SOI. It's very clear that you are also approving the annexation and the project. So your vote to approve the SOI and the EIR, despite significant and unavoidable impacts, will clearly indicate your support for the ultimate Airport South Industrial Project, which places 6 million square feet of warehouses next to a school and a neighborhood and a habitat. And we also remain concerned about the Natomas Basin Habitat Conservation Plan, despite the staff's comments. And now that there is a development agreement, which we understand from the announcement of a planning commission meeting set later this month, it seems to us that since the MOU called for any development agreements to be reviewed in the EIR, you need to take the EIR back.
Ms.
and
Fargo, please
review
wrap up your comments.
the development agreement. So we urge you to not certify the EIR and to not approve the SOI. Thank you.
Your next person in support is Richard Kuna.
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of the Kyoka and Scalora families who are property owners, Parcel 8, which is within the proposed area, and we strongly endorse the city and staff's recommendations and request that you adopt them and move all of the properties into the sphere. Our property was purchased in 1960 and farmed until a few years back when it became virtually impossible to farm in that area. The issues raised to oppose taking the properties into the SOI are threefold: habitat, pollution, and traffic. For clarity's sake, for our property, please consider the following. As for habitat concern, our property is already covered by the Natomas HCP, and there's no evidence to show that it will be disregarded or violated. As for suggested traffic and pollution problems, we have not proposed any roadways or anything that creates or emits pollution on or from our property. Further, there is only one road proposed by North Point near our property, and that is at the northern edge of our acreage, and there are no roads proposed at this time on the east side, Westlake side of our property, or the south side, the school side of our property. Regarding the barriers and berms, there is already a barrier on the east side of our property between us and the Westlake development of approximately 200 feet. Lastly, we are one of the most contiguous parcels to the city, which is approximately 200 feet away. As said, we agree with
Please wrap up your comments.
recommendations and findings and urge you to follow them and bring all properties included in this proposal into the SOI and allow us to utilize our property in an appropriate manner. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next speaker in support is John Hershey.
Good evening, Commissioners. My name is John Hershey. I'm here with UA Local 447, Plumbers and Pipe Fitters, based here in Sacramento. Our union would like to add our voice in support of the expansion of the City of Sacramento's sphere of influence related to the question at hand. While the tax and economic benefits for local government and the community are well documented, we support this move as it opens the door to future approval to projects envisioned, which would be in this area, and which would also provide local construction opportunities to our apprentices and journey workers who live here in Sacramento. The wages paid to our members pay local rents, mortgages, taxes, and contribute to the local economy and economic activity in an appreciable amount. Additionally, as our region grows, it is projected to continue to do so, there will be an increasing need for skilled and trained workers. And while the ASIP, which would be involved in this, does not include language for such requirements, this would nonetheless help to provide the work experiences for apprentices to gain those job skills. Additionally, more work opportunities for construction professionals means support for local apprenticeship programs that provide critical after-hours training. Sacramento will need these professionals that gain experience on projects like these to take the call to build out the healthcare and educational infrastructure in our region that will undoubtedly be needed in the future. So please vote in favor of this. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, our next speaker in opposition would be Judith.
Out of deference to the supervisors on the dais, I will reserve comment. Thank you.
Mr. Chair, our next person in opposition would be Daniel McKelvey.
Thank you. Chair and Commissioners, my name is Daniel McKelvey, and I live on Garden Highway. I will make this very brief. We have, over the last 2 years, lived in the area and absolutely loved it. What we've enjoyed about it is really the sparseness of the area, where we don't feel like we are overrun by either office buildings or neighbors on top of us, or other traffic, if you will. We tried to get away from that. We came up from the Bay Area specifically for that reason. We know that in the area that there are multiple projects that are going on already. The traffic and the extension of these projects into the area is only further dealing with, the infrastructure, which right now it seems like it's not only is it going to be overrun, but it's going to expand considerably. And from that perspective, it really decreases the value, if you will, of the area and the property value from our perspective. So that I ask that you take in consideration of what these projects are going to do, not just this one, but the other ones around the area, and make sure that they don't turn this beautiful area into an undesirable location. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Our next speaker.
The next speaker in opposition would be Andy.
Thank you, Chair, and hello, Commissioners as well, and staff. I want to be clear. Development is inevitable in Sacramento. We've shown unprecedented growth throughout the years, time over time. So I'm not necessarily in opposition as a whole to the development, but more so on opposition to the placement of the development. We have an opportunity here to place a wonderful industrial development in an area that already suits it, where north of the highway, there has already been an infrastructure established. There has already been sustainable planning that has already been pumped into this area that can be further extended. And if we look over our year-over-year expansion and the need for growth coming for decades, it provides an opportunity for that like-for-like development to further increase as we, as a population in Sacramento, also further increase. So my ask for you guys is that you take an opportunity to see placement in our year over year and decade over decade organization of how we're going to be developing out in Sacramento, and consider an optimal location for it just north of the highway, where we could still capture a beneficial socioeconomic impact by leveraging opportunities that were discussed earlier, by ensuring that contractual language is put in place for when these developments do progress, that PLAs and other types of agreements are in place so that we can capture the proper socioeconomic impact.
Please
that
wrap up your
this
comments.
community deserves. So as a resident of the Garden Highway area and as a constituent, that's my ask. Let's plan smarter. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, your last speaker in opposition, your fifth speaker, would be Kathy Van Leafda, excuse me.
Thank you.
Thank you. Welcome.
Hi. Thank you for hearing us. I do want to reiterate what everyone has already said, and I do want you to consider that we're not a corporation, but we are a community. I've retired in that area because of the proximity to Sac County and the green space, and we are a wonderful community there. And this addition will create traffic. and it will also create pollution for us. And so I just want to reiterate what everyone has said, and to please think of our side of things also as you consider this decision. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, your next speaker in support is Jaime Torres.
Thank you, Acting Chair and fellow board members. So thank you for this opportunity once again. This weekend I had the pleasure to enjoy working a job for Labor's Local 185, which I'm a proud member. And one of the pleasures I had was actually enjoying youth coming up. Youth that's ready to come into the workforce. Youth that's ready to come and actually enjoy trade. They want to be a tax-paying member. They want to work the trades. College isn't for them. They're fully aware of the situation. They want to follow the footsteps of their parents. They want to follow the footsteps of the peers that are already engaged in this. And some of these opportunities that we generate and constantly need proactive jobs that actually have an opportunity. Some of them do want to go into the workforce. They dislike the responsibility and the obligation of being in college, to be in debt. Also, within the building trades, Sacramento Sierra Building Trades, we worked for Natomas Unified School District, and we were there with all the high school students ready to come into the workforce. Kids that are actually kids of some of our members, they want to engage, they want to participate, and these are local jobs that are actually guaranteeing these opportunities. They want to be close to home, they want to be near their loved ones, they want to be a part of the community, they want to leave a carbon footprint in the community they live in and enjoy. So thank you for your consideration on this item, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
The previous speaker opposed spoke for less than half a minute. May I have a minute and a half?
I'm sorry, what was your question?
The previous speaker opposed spoke for less than half a minute. May I have a minute?
We've used up the five people in opposition so far. Everybody in here has a very important point. I value them all, but we can't.
2 minutes of the last speaker, so I'm just asking to fill that gap.
Can you do it in 30 seconds?
All right.
That's what you get. Let's go.
Speaking on behalf of the Breathe California Sacramento region, of which I'm a board member. So Parcel 8, we just heard, needs to be developed in a manner consistent to the rest of it. But then we're almost at the limit for the requirement for mitigation based on the diesel exhaust cancer risk from the rest of the development. So therefore, if you approve this project, I would suggest that you do it with the exclusion of Parcel 8, because that'll need to be analyzed later with another EIR with the development that does occur there.
Please wrap up your
Thank
comment.
you.
Thank you.
Well done.
Mr. Chair, the next speaker in support is Daniel Garcia.
Good evening, Chair. My name is Daniel Garcia. I've been a resident of Sacramento for many years. I'm also a proud member of Labor's Local 185. I'm here this evening in strong support of the Airport South Industrial Project and urge you to do the same. This property is strategically positioned for industrial development with easy access to major highways and the international airport. The project will create enormous job opportunities during construction and long-term, strengthening our region's economic stability for everyone. This project stands to benefit not only my union brothers and sisters who are proudly here showcasing their La Una orange, but also so many others in our community, such as apprentices eager to build their careers, young people entering the trades, formerly incarcerated individuals, and returning veterans from service looking for a second chance. And I know this because I was once in their position. Thanks to the union that gave me the structure and support I needed to build a better future for my family. However, success in this industry often comes with sacrifice, as I spent years commuting for work outside of my local area, losing valuable time with my family and loved ones. But I believe we can create better opportunities for others and minimize these sacrifices. As board members, you all have the power to bring good paying jobs with benefits for the hardworking members of our community. I respectfully urge you all to move forward with this project without delay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, our final speaker in support will be Rob Fong.
I think it's just good to be last. My name is Rob Fong. I'm here to speak in support of the project on behalf of UA Local 447, the plumbers and pipe fitters. We are super looking forward to building out this project when it's at that stage. You know, it's funny, just the whole face of retail has changed significantly, right? Especially since COVID, and fulfillment centers are sort of supplanting a lot of brick and mortar malls. And I think the reason why this project is going where it wants to go is because it's next to the airport and it's right across from Metro Air Park. And so it's well positioned to kind of be an economic stimulus project for the city of Sacramento and the county of Sacramento. And we are very much in support of you all approving the staff's recommendation to extend the SOI to the city of Sacramento and to the Sacramento Sewer District. So thank you very much for your consideration.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that includes your 5 speakers in opposition and your 5 speakers in support.
We have 6 left. Is that correct?
7.
7. No, 6.
6.
6.
Changed it, yes.
All right. In the interest of openness, so how about we go 1 minute each for the remaining 6 people, just so that they have a chance to speak.
All right, your next speaker will be Kent Layson.
Yeah, hi, thank you. I've spoken to you before. I was going to say some stuff, but basically what's scaring me is bit by bit, piece by piece, we are losing our natural habitat. We are going to look like Phoenix, Arizona when you fly in. You're not going to see those fields. You're going to see housing. You're going to see paved roads, and you're not going to see just prime farmland, you know, beautiful natural habitat that's never going to come back. I just don't think it's a wise thing to do. And I know it's a complicated, and it's all baked into our economy because we're based on money, and beauty has no place. And that's sad because I think without beauty, we are going to be very unhappy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, our next speaker is Sheila Harrington.
Hi, my name is Sheila Harrington. I live in Sacramento, about 10 miles from the proposed project. And I'm going to be really quick and just say that I know that the mission of LAFCo is pronged, and so there are 4 different missions that you all have. But I just want to remind you that passing this tonight, the sphere of influence, and extending it would mean ignoring an agreement that was hammered out by environmentalists and developers and the city years and years ago, specifically to stop urban sprawl. So I just want to point out the irony there, and I know you have other things you have to consider, but since I have 17 more seconds, I'm going to say really quickly, I also think that it's very unfair to other developers because they have been respecting this. Believe me, they've been looking at that land too and saying, that's a prime piece of land. But they respected the agreement. This one did
Please
not.
wrap up your comments.
Okay.
Thank you. Thank you. Ralph Proper, please. Next speaker. Next speaker will be Doyle Stedford, Jr.
Good evening, Chair Little and respected commissioners. Point of clarification, my name is Doyle Radford, Jr., but I do like that new pronunciation. That's cool. So I have the privilege to represent the men and women in orange. I'm the business manager of Construction and General Labor's Local 185. Quite a few of the members are here with us tonight, And this is the type of projects they rely on to support their families. We've been proudly building the community since 1929. This is a good developer that builds responsibly. Not just us, several other trades work with them. And we've been working with them on other projects. They have the core values that we hold dear, honor, justice, strength, as well as integrity. And we support this project, and we hope you see to pass it tonight. Thank you for your consideration.
Thank you.
Sandra Moore. Sandra Moore.
Hello and good evening, Commission. I'm a local 340 apprentice. My name is Sandra Moore, and speaking from the apprenticeship, I graduate next week. Our representation in the industrial field right now is woeful at best. I got spun from a job in 2 weeks because I had no industrial experience. That means my brothers and sisters are not getting that experience as well. That is not good for our future. We need to invest in our students. Our JATC is 1 mile from this job. That is a growth pattern of years of good training for our people in local area that we could expand on. So if you could please consider us with our training and our skills, I'd really appreciate it. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Our final speaker is Glayoil Saba.
Good evening, Commission. My name is Glayoil Saba, and I'm a member of the 3rd Act Sacramento Climate Coalition, and 350 Sacramento, all climate organizations working to speed up our transition off fossil fuels so that we can take advantage of the small window of opportunity left to ensure a livable future for all species. This project is wrong for so many reasons and makes me feel that there's no sense of climate urgency considered by the developers in their proposal. I'll make it brief. I have 32 seconds. Here are the bullet points. We're in the 6th mass extinction. This project area represents habitat for millions of migratory birds. This is located in Greenfield and outside of the agreed upon urban boundary. It's disastrous for our urban sprawl problem, as many people have suggested. And there's loss of valuable farmland, which can help significantly in nature-based climate solutions. In closing, I'd like to ask all those opposed to this project who took the time to come here and show you our concern to please stand up.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chair, that includes your public commenters for item 6.
Thank you. Supervisor Hume.
Director in this.
Director, I'm sorry.
Or Commissioner.
Commissioner.
That's okay.
I'll get you
Thank
right.
you.
I'll get it right.
Yeah, I had a quick question to ask. I believe it was Mayor Fargo that brought up the question about the city certifying their own EIR. And I can't remember if we asked this question last meeting or not, and if we did, I can't remember what the answer was. But is this considered more like a programmatic EIR, and then they would do a project-specific EIR once they know the actual proposals? And then my sort of part 2 of that question would be, given that there's whatever ambiguity with respect to parcel 8, I believe it was referenced, would that be an amendment to an EIR or to a future EIR?
To the first question, the commission is certifying the EIR that's before them, and they certify it for 3 reasons. They certify that it's been completed in compliance with CEQA, that it was presented to the decision-making body, which reviewed and considered it before acting on the project before them, and that it reflects the agency's independent judgment. So the project before you is the sphere of influence. You're certifying the EIR with respect to those 3 things. Essentially, it complies with CEQA, and you reviewed it, and it reflects your judgment. And if the city brings the project before it, at that time it has the option of doing the same thing. But we don't know what the city's going to do in the future, And so for purposes of tonight, you're certifying it for those things. Now, I'm not sure I followed your question with respect to parcel 8.
So I'll restate that portion, but let me clarify what you just said there. I understand what we are being asked to do, and that as a part of that decision, we have to basically say, with respect to anticipated service delivery, et cetera, land use patterns, et cetera, that there is an EIR that is adequate in its study of that. What I'm asking is, if it goes to Mr. Pluckybaum and his colleagues, what discretion do they have to either accept, tweak, or deny, and then what would that trigger with respect to the new EIR? And or would they simply do an environmental document that would tee off of this EIR as the baseline?
I would not anticipate any additional environmental document. This agency is certifying that document that's before you as having been prepared in compliance with CEQA. That means it examines the project as a whole. It examines the potential environmental effects, makes determinations about whether those effects can be mitigated or not, and so on and so forth. If a project comes before the city that is within the scope of this EIR, then they don't have to certify a new EIR. They don't have to amend it. They may want to certify it for some reason, but if a project comes before them that is just like the one in this EIR, then they should be free to rely on this EIR, and it's been certified by this body as having been prepared in compliance with CEQA.
Okay. So hold on one second. A project that is in substantial compliance with what this EIR contemplated, correct?
Are you talking about the project that comes before the city?
I'm talking about a future hypothetical project.
Yeah.
Obviously, as the land use decision-making body, they have some discretion over what they determine to be appropriate and inappropriate for any project that they consider.
Right.
Assuming that differs from what we're certifying, there would need to be additional EIR.
To the extent that they decide that they want to approve a project that's different than the one that is described in the EIR, then they may have to perform some additional environmental review to account for those differences in the project.
Okay.
And what I wanted to add is that it's one of the reasons behind the MOU between LAFCo and the city. So basically, the proposal was the starting point, and LAFCo and the city entered into an MOU to create an EIR that would encompass both discretionary actions. What you're certifying here is to the discretionary action that's before you, which is the sphere of influence.
Right.
And then the city would then take that same EIR for their discretionary entitlement approvals. Now, if the project ultimately that goes before the city differentiates substantially from what the project description is in the EIR, then at that point the city has the option of either creating a brand new environmental review, amending the environmental review to encompass the new project, or if they deem that further clarification is needed, they can add an addendum to it. But the reality is that, again, as council has said, you're certifying the EIR for the action that is compliant with CEQA for the action that's before you with the sphere of influence amendment. Then the project goes to the city, and then they have their discretionary approval process.
Yeah, and I want to clarify something. I think we're saying the same thing, but you're certifying the EIR, and just to be perfectly clear, I'll read from the language of the guidelines, that it's been completed in compliance with CEQA, that it was presented to you, and that you reviewed and considered the information in it prior to approving the project that's before you.
Right.
And that it represents your independent judgment and analysis.
And it's that second point is why I'm teasing out this question, because the project before us is simply a sphere of influence amendment.
Right.
The land use decision rests with an entirely different agency, and to the extent they seek to exercise their judgment and determination over the types and locations of land use within their project determination may trigger additional environmental study.
It could, and they, if they wanted to, could certify this document, recertify it, certify it again. Now, the word project gets a little fuzzy in there. And you're approving a project, and it's within the CEQA findings that really focuses on the project before you versus the project that's described in the EIR. The EIR describes a large project, build out, operation, and so on. The project before you is the sphere of influence amendment. And in the CEQA findings that are before you, you make certain findings with respect to the project before you, based on the EIR.
Okay. So then to the second part of my question, the gentleman that spoke about Parcel 8, given that development of Parcel 8 is not contemplated within this EIR, so far I'm saying a truth?
I would say that development of Parcel 8, and this is really a question for the EIR consultants or the applicants, but I would say that development was not evaluated in detail in the EIR, that it arguably is contemplated because there are certain land use designations that are assigned to that property, right? So it would be a little misleading to say, well, you know, development is not contemplated on that property. But this EIR, as I have read it, does not support the issuance of building permits and things like that on that property.
And I'll touch upon this because it's discussed also on the MSR and on the EIR, is that when there is a certain level of items that are not known, so what CEQA requires is that you basically evaluate the impacts to the maximum allowable under the zoning. So while there is no specific project specified for parcel, and I'm using not the CEQA definition of project, I'm using the development project, just to be clear. Even though there is no development project for Parcel 8, what CEQA requires you to do is to basically look at what would be the potential uses for that area, and then evaluate the maximum allowable impacts for that use and evaluate that. So basically, you're setting up a ceiling, and the project might be below that. But that's what CEQA requires CEQA to do, and that's what's done in the MSR to evaluate the impacts, and that's what's done on the environmental review.
Okay, thank you.
And Mr. Chair, thank you. I know we do have a representative from the applicant here. I don't know if there was any response about Parcel 8, if that's necessary or not. All right.
Okay, do we have any other comments? Yeah, I see you have a question. Okay.
I just wanted to say about Parcel 8. As I read, I think it was in the EIR, because I did read all 633 and some pages. So I can't remember what page it was on, but I remember Parcel 8, when they were going through the mitigation of all of the different non-participating parcels. They said the non-participating parcels will likely have the same mitigations as the participating parcels, except for Parcel 8, which will probably require, because they're going to be butted up against housing, that would, because of the air quality issues, I think that was going to require additional, as the mitigation, additional studies, you know, as they do the pre-do-ever evaluations, surveys of the critters that live there. They do all the surveying. So I think that that's going to get addressed if Parcel 8 ever wants to do anything. It'd probably end up getting additional look-see. is what I think. So when I read whatever it is I read something.
Yeah, if that's a question to me, I would say that sounds right to me. Again, I think it's, you know.
So I wasn't worried about Parcel 8 because, Parcel 8 looks kind of like I wouldn't want to own it. It looks like it's going to be answered when Parcel 8 decides to do something. I don't think he's just going to get the same hoop that everybody else has to jump through. I think he's going to get a bigger hoop.
What I heard you say was that some of the mitigation measures that apply overall would apply to Parcel 8, but there may be more that
Additional,
applies.
Yep.
And I would say that sounds right to me. But again, that is a question that might be better directed
In terms of air quality. So it was the air quality issues.
to the consultants.
Okay. Seeing no more comments, do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, if I may, so I appreciate everyone coming out again tonight, and I appreciate staff's judicious sort of effort at really buttoning up the language included in the findings of fact. I made a motion last meeting because having been a part of in the audience as an applicant for a LAFCo proceeding, having been on the dais as a LAFCo commissioner for a sphere of influence proceeding, and having been in the private sector for folks who are looking to go through the LAFCo process, I have a pretty firm grasp of what LAFCO is considering versus what the ultimate land use agency will be asked to consider. And so, irrespective of the Natomas Basin Plan, irrespective of the county's urban services boundary, which is not a planning tool that the city of Sacramento ever signed on to or agreed to abide by, what LAFCO looks at is the logical assumption that the services can be provided to these parcels by the agency seeking that entitlement. And so toward that end, I would move staff's recommendation to approve the respective amendments to the SOI for the City of Sacramento and Sacramento Area Sewer District and certify the EIR.
Do we have a second? Second. Are there any further comments?
You may vote.
Okay, seeing none.
Your motion passes unanimously.
Our next item, please.
Mr. Chair, your next item is receive update from General Counsel on the Sacramento County reclassification of the LAFCo executive officer and provide direction.
Mr. Chair, we don't have an update at this moment, so we will be returning something at the next meeting.
What, item 7, or excuse me, item 9?
Item 9 is Executive Officer Commission Counsel, asterisk sheet and correspondence.
Mr. Chair, your analyst, Krista Graber, will be providing an update on the asterisk sheet, but I just wanted to give you an update. Some of you know that I've taken on the interim executive director role at LAFCo. I do that in the evenings and weekends. I don't do that during work hours for Sacramento LAFCo. However, I've already notified to the LAFCo Board of Directors that this can't continue. I've been doing it for the last 3 months. I rather love my wife and enjoy spending time with her and the cats and my hobbies. And I want to return to that. That hasn't occurred since the last week of January. So LAFCO will be recruiting someone else to take over to the interim executive director role. And hopefully it'll be soon. But that's one of the updates. The second update I wanted to give you, again, LAFCO related. I forwarded to you an email earlier this afternoon relating to a discussion about what LAFCO can be. It's kind of an envisioning thing. Staff and commissioners are welcome to attend. It'll be on May 16th in Manteca. Unfortunately, there is, as far as I know, there isn't a virtual option. But if you wanted to participate and you had a free middle of the afternoon, you can take a nice, pleasant drive down to Manteca and participate in those discussions. Lunch will be provided. Thank you to LAFCo, and hopefully it'll be a good, robust discussion about how to take the organization to the next level.
Thank you.
Thank you. We also, staff participated in the LAFCo staff workshop this past week, and it was a really good event, I think, as the interim ED for LAFCO. But it worked really well. We took policy analyst Grabo and your clerk, Luis Washington, to participate in that in that workshop. And it's basically it's a staff training, skills development type of event that happens annually for staff. And I thought it was a good program. The LAFCO conference will be later this year in October, and I know that Commissioner Jones and Commissioner Desmond have indicated that they would like to attend. If there are any other commissioners who want to attend, please let me know so that we can start planning accordingly.
Thank you. Christy.
Hey, good evening. So I just have a brief, thank you, comment about the ASHA sheet. Everything is still moving along. We're still pretty busy. I think Desiree is supposed to be coming back later this month, so we're excited to have our policy analyst back. Just some updates on a project real quick is that we released a RFP for the Omno Chimney Hartnell MSR application that we have going on. RFPs are due on May 23rd. Other than that, everything's still moving forward. So that completes my part.
Great, thank you. Anything from commissioners?
Mr. Chair, I was going to say, yes, good job navigating this difficult.
The sun's still out.
And the sun's still up. Good job. And the other thing, I do want to just add a little additional context or comments about my statement I made after the off-agenda public commenter about the cemetery district. I do think, and I know there's some certain information that you wanted from, I think, the districts before we had that workshop, but I think there is some benefit in even just having a broader discussion about just kind of the landscape of the cemetery district serving Sacramento County, how they're structured, how they're funded, and maybe where some of the gaps are. So I do think that would be helpful for us to have if we can squeeze it into the agenda in the next, before the end of the year.
Yeah, we'll try to do something in the fall. We don't have any projects that are coming up for your consideration, so maybe we for the August or September meeting we can make that happen.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay. With that, we can adjourn the meeting at 7:05.